Hello and welcome back to our channel. Well, a lot is going on right now, and we are definitely in a time where reality has bubbled up to the surface. Reality has bubbled up to the surface, and a lot of things that many of us have been talking about for so long are ringing true to those who just kind of allowed it to fall on deaf ears. Now, what we see is the minds of many are now starting to retrieve some of those implantations of thoughts that many of us put out there years ago about what we should expect soon and very soon. And this is not to say I told you so, but to say this is why we owe it to ourselves to secure our own futures. When I say secure our own futures, of course, I know there's only so much we can do outside of the will of our Father. Okay. And some of you aren't trying to hear that either. What I'm referring to is there are things that we can do ourselves in preparations for times such as this. The work of our hands, putting into action various goals and things that we have talked about or things that we know we need to do. We've heard people say that you need to have X amount of dollars saved up. We've heard people say put away this amount of food for this length of time. Many of us have heard these things, but for some it falls on deaf ears. Thinking that you can just kick the can down the road. Wait a little bit. Maybe next year I'll have time. Maybe in a couple of years I'll have time. I'm really busy right now. Right now, a lot of people are not busy because they are at home from work, finding that they now have more time than they used to have. Also, the children. A lot of children are at home, whereas parents had gotten used to them being at school. Do you see how quickly reality has changed? Our lives have changed seemingly overnight. And a lot of people are frightened. We've talked to various family members in various regions of the country, and we've heard from others in various regions of the country. Everyone's circumstances are different because some regions are different than others. Those who are in more heavily populated areas are finding it more difficult to grab hold of the things that they need. We talked to one family member that said they went into the stores and there was nothing. It was all gone. Whereas they had gotten used to being able to just go and grab and go and get what you wanted. Grab and get what you wanted. But now that option is off the table. And so this is what our son meant when he said there's a certain sadness that comes along with all of this when you know that it has caught some people off guard, or some people are unaware or were unaware. And it's not that people were unaware, because many of us have been sharing things with our families for years and things have fallen on deaf ears, but you still feel that sense of urgency and that sense of concern in a time like this. Various curfews have been enacted all around the country. And so it makes you wonder about traveling. It's just so many thoughts, so many things to consider and think about. So many things. But one thing I can say for sure, if the dust clears and settles and things go back to any sense of normalcy, because I don't know if it'll ever go back to the way it was. Because it seems like with really big events, they always have permanent changes in place. Like I remember the whole TSA thing with the airports, when things happened, all of a sudden we see that now they have TSA who have changed the whole policy of how things operate or work at the airport. And that never went back to the way it was. TSA is here to stay, I guess. And now with this, who knows what policies will remain intact or in place after the dust settles. That's if the dust settles. Now, we've talked about what's going on in a number of different videos, and we have those of you who say we're pushing fear or we sound afraid and all of this kind of stuff. And these are people who are scoffers who are wanting to deflect from getting a message out there, because there is no fear when you are simply telling people reality. You're trying to actually calm the fears. That's what my goal is. I'm trying to calm the fears, you see, because we are all fully aware of what's going on. And talking about this thing, or these things, should I say, doesn't mean you're afraid or that you're spreading fear. Those of you who have time to go around the internet acting foolish, not just in this, but other things as well. I see a lot of, yet and still, a lot of foolish conversations still going on Facebook. Like there's a bunch of children on there who can't concentrate, or a bunch of children who don't understand what is happening. Grown people on Facebook clowning, being ignorant and foolish, starting fights and trouble, and just like you're in the 4th grade or something. Do you see what's happening right now? Not just this country, but the world is in crisis, and you see grown people. That noise you hear in the background, I have some seeds in front of me trying to contemplate what I'm going to pack into some soil tomorrow. We've been just packing everything, you know. I want to get as much as I can growing as possible. And we've been hitting it really hard here, because our goal is to be able to grow enough, depending on how long this thing goes. Our goal is to be able to grow enough to go into some of the more populated areas, because we're in the country, but go into the more populated areas and provide for anything that we can give to anyone who has a need, even if we have to drop it off at a church that has a congregation. But that's what the goal is. And all of us, any of us who are already into gardening and planting, let's consider that for the next person, especially if you always have an overabundance of things. Let's do that, because we don't know how long this thing is going to go. Even if this thing stops and ceases, I think it's a great thing to do. We typically like to give away seeds, and I think maybe we should go ahead and get ourselves prepared for that. I know I kind of cut away from what I was talking about, but I was trying to explain the sound of seeds in the background. But I want to give away some of the Cushaw squash, because that is a very, very hearty meal that can be prepared just from a squash, tasting very similar to sweet potatoes, and it can feed a lot of people because they grow very large. But anyway, back to what I was talking about. I think it's time for people to really reevaluate how they are behaving, and your mindset. The scripture talks about, it says, when I was a child, I thought as a child. Now that I'm a man, I think as a man. That's how it reads. But if you're a woman, now that you're a woman, think like a woman. You see. So for us, it would read, when I was a child, I thought like a child. Now that I'm a woman, I think like a woman. If you're a man, you think like a man. All of the foolishness and the childishness that we see on the internet, you would think that it would stop and cease at a time like this. But the foolishness and folly continues on. And so I'm hoping that that reality kick will kick in for some, those who want to keep playing games and thinking that this stuff is something to play with. Even if this does blow over in a week or 2 or 3 weeks or whatever, who knows how long it's going to be. But even if it does blow over, this is not something for you to sit back and twiddle your thumbs and go back to the same mindset of just lollygagging around, tiptoeing through la la land like you have nothing that you need to be working towards, no goals or anything. I see that a lot, and it's just really disturbing to see people behave this way. Anyway, I just wanted to come in and just say a few words to my listening audience and to encourage you to get out and do what you have to do for your family. We've given a lot of ideas of what people could do in terms of growing food. A lot of people are trying their hands at it for the first time because of this crisis. But this is what we've been saying. You don't wait till the crisis hits and then try. This is something we should have been doing in the first place, because anytime you depend on someone outside of yourself for all of your needs, that is a very vulnerable position to be in. And so we all have a lot of improving to do. I take my hat off and commend those who are fully off grid, who don't need any systems outside of themselves, and they're able to hold it down. I commend you for that. We are partially off grid. But there are things we still need. I would love to have a solar panel system. We do have a whole house generator, but that operates off of propane. And so if the propane runs out, then the generator stops running too. So there are things that we are working on, and we have goals toward as well. And so we all have to put those prayers out there that Abba Yah will increase us to the point where we will be able to do those things in preparation for what we need to secure our families for the future. So much to consider, so much to think about. Let's move forward without fear, but faith. Of course, faith without works is dead. You can't have faith if you're just going to sit on your behind and do nothing. Okay, you have to apply that faith, right? And this was another one of those things that we've talked about for years, where we've got to learn how to get along with one another. And I'm not talking about just accepting people in just because they need a place to be, but changing you so that you can be a part of someone's circle or come together with someone, because it's not fair that someone has to put up with another person's demons that they've allowed to rest up in their bodies, minds, and souls, and you want people to put up with that. But the way we've always seen it is that we all need each other, but there is work to be done on every end. Work to be done on every end. Change you so that people can tolerate you, okay? And again, I'm not always talking about bad attitudes, even though bad attitudes can ruin relationships too. I'm talking about people who steal and put their hands on things they ain't got no business putting it on, and taking from others and mistreating and abusing others. That's what I'm talking about. We always want to simplify things and say we need to put our attitudes and our differences aside. It's not that simple. Usually people who say that kind of stuff are the ones who want to try to come in on somebody else. They want to put differences aside because they want to come in on someone else, right? But we can't expect that. So we all have got to make some changes, because if this thing blows over, don't think for 1 minute that it won't show up again. And the next time it might be worse than the first time. So we all got a lot of adjusting to do. We have to examine that person in the mirror, get it together so that we can work together in love and true unity. Okay? That is all for now. I hope I've said something to encourage you towards some type of change, whether it's that attitude of yours, that wickedness of yours, or deciding to put forth some effort to sustain yourself, growing food, putting aside what you can, working with others, whatever it may be. Okay? This is my word of encouragement for you today. With that, I will say shalom. Be sure to ring the bell to be notified of new uploads on this channel, and also comment, share, like, and subscribe.